What is this verkakte mess? That means Jay's working on the Bluick. I'm not a mechanic. I'm a computer tech by trade. But, you know, I can do simple stuff. I did the cap, rotor, and wires as demonstrated in a previous video. Today we're doing the ignition coil. Only because the one that was here, I'm still having some weird issue with the car where sitting at a traffic light in drive, it'll just be running and then it'll stop for a split second and continue running as if nothing happened. I don't really know what the hell is going on with that. I looked up the ignition coil. It was 16 bucks. For $16, you know, why not put a new one in? Well, as usual, it's turning out to be a nightmare, even though it's right here. I'll show you the old coil in a minute. First, I want to point out, to get this out, this, in case anybody is interested, this is a 67 Buick Riviera. Right down here, right in there, there's a screw, a flathead screw that goes around like a clamp. This is where the ignition coil sits in this round thing. But after I loosen that, and the screw is completely out, I don't know if you can actually tell, it's just hanging there. The thing just wouldn't move. So then I found a bolt, which is right down here, right behind, right below that terminal that you see. Had to loosen that, and that gave me enough clearance to move the thing. It's a damn good thing they use these like spade terminal connectors, because otherwise I would have had a lot of trouble. Let me show you what happened. This one might be original. This is the original here. It says, there's a bug. It says Delco Remy on it, and the font on it looks old schooly, so it is possible it's original. This nut will not come off of there. It's rusted. I don't want to touch it because it's filthy and I don't have my gloves on right now, but it's just stuck on there. I tried with a pair of pliers, that wasn't having it. So I'll get that off another time. The good news is, here's the replacement. It's just a Chinese, what is it, Spectra brand or something? Whatever. Looks identical. Everything's there. And fortunately they gave new nuts on it. Because otherwise, if that didn't come off, I would have to either cut the wire or the connector itself and then splice a new one on, and those wires really don't have a lot of length on them. So rather than playing that game and ending up with shoddy connections, they used the right type of terminals on that, so they just slid off. So anyway, that's off now, and it's time to put the new one in. The new one, of course, is the reverse installation procedure, and I will get started doing that. And if my gloves don't get too filthy, I'll show you along the way. I can't show you doing the work because I'm only one guy today, and the tripod ain't going to help you at this kind of angle. The gentleman you heard before at the end of that last clip was the mailman, saying hello. But I got it in. Really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I had to loosen that bolt back in there a bit more to get the new one in. Maybe the Chinese equivalent is a little bit larger in diameter, because please allow 1 to 2 millimeters measurement for manual measurement, you know. But I got that in there, and I also got that screw down in there. That actually went in one shot. I'm amazed. So that's a flathead screw, and I don't know if you can tell, there's about no access to that. So you just kind of have to get in there and mush at it until you get it. But I got it. It's not exactly straight, but it's nothing I'm going to worry about because the old one wasn't straight either. It just is. The only other difference that makes me think that the other one might even be original, if not original, it was replaced back in the 80s, I would guess, is that the old one, the nuts on top are SAE, and these are 8mm metric. So it's always good to have a set that has both, because you never know what you're going to find. And I like to use the right tool when I can, especially if I have it, and I have it. instead of using the wrong one and ending up with a shitty connection all because it was easier for you. Yes. Okay. Anyway, these are marked for polarity. If you look closely, you should see a plus and a minus there, plus on the left, minus on the right. These two terminals that are on the left there go on there, and the one on the right goes on the right. Only other issue I foresee having is the coil wire. Now, when I did these are, you know, Chinese replacements. Look at that fakakta mess. What the fuck is that? See if it'll give you a close-up in there. It's all mashed and bent over and fucked up, and I didn't do that. That's how it came. It's because the way they crimp it on, they don't do it properly, so I'm going to have to see about trying to coerce that onto here. If not, I do have the old wire, and if I just can't get this one to work, I'm going to bring this back to the store and say, get me a new set, and I'm taking the parts I need, and I'll give you the rest back. Because that's ridiculous. But anyway, it's time to put these on, so I shall do that, and then we'll try to put the plug wire on, the coil wire on, and see if it'll fire up. Okay, wires are on, plug wire's on, everything is pretty good. So I think we're about ready to try this, see if it wants to run. Just hoping nothing got fucked up. I have the battery disconnected over here. That's just where it makes the best connection, like that. And let's prime the carbonator. And I'll get the key, and with any luck, it'll fire right up. Let's turn the key on. Okay, everything here is good. Nothing blew up yet. I call that a success. She's real cold. Maybe too cold. Or maybe that wire isn't making good enough connection and that was the whole problem? I don't know. I mean, I didn't let it run long enough. That's interesting. Well, let me step on it a little bit. It never did this before. Uh-oh. All right, now we're running. Okay, I think we're good now. I just didn't want to leave you there hanging at fast idle for, you know, 10 minutes. There we go. Now she's running. Now let's just see. No, that's good and solid. I mean, otherwise you'd hear something. Rev it up a little bit. she's running. My dad had suggested that perhaps the idle is a little bit low. I don't know if the camera makes it out, but I could actually see the fluctuation in the idle on the fan on the alternator. I did turn the idle down on this like a year and change ago. Maybe it's a little out of adjustment. It needs to be picked up just a tiny bit. It is running a bit slow, I will say. But let's see what happens here in drive. Step on the brake. It's like barely chugging over. But it's running. I mean, I prefer the low lumpy idle myself. See, that's what it does. Do you think perhaps the idle is set just a little too low and something goes slightly awry and that's why it does that? I'm sure it'll idle even slower than this, but you know, there comes a point you can't have an engine idle too slow because then it has a very good tendency to stall. Maybe this is like right on the cusp of where, you know, the low end of where it should be. So unfortunately the coil didn't solve that problem. And I don't know, I'm not convinced of putting the idle up just yet. There it was again. Let's put it in park. Perhaps my dad was right, because in park it never seems to do it. It only happens in drive, like at a traffic light waiting, that you'll get that. So I'll toy around with the idea, and I'll probably end up kicking the idle up just a slight tad. When I got it, it was definitely too high. It was way too high. Definitely no good. Maybe some more things about the carbonator have worn out some, and you know, things are out of adjustment, and because of that, you can turn the idle up to compensate until it gets too bad and it won't run at all. Yeah, see, it runs fine now. I'm certain that it'll restart no problem. Yeah. Alright, well, I'll call that good for now. Everything with an old car is always good for now, until the next thing that you never know when, or if, or what. Well, it's always, it's never an if, it's it will, is what it is. But everything looks good. We'll go back to the engine one more time. Yeah, now that she's warmed up a bit, she's running great. Still did it here. If anybody has any idea why it just skips like that for a moment, please let me know, because that's been an ongoing issue and I really don't know what it is. The points and condenser look fine. Last they were checked, which was about a year ago, there really hasn't been that many miles put on it. Maybe a couple, maybe 2,000, that's about it. This is a surprise. This is my first voiceover. The problem has been continuing with the car. Just so everybody is aware, I have replaced the ignition coil, all of the spark plug wires, the spark plugs, the cap, and the rotor. The plugs are about a year old, so I'm sure they're fine. The points and condenser were looked at approximately a year ago, and they appear to be fine as well. The problem is continuing now, and it's getting to the point now where it's so bad that it's doing this misfiring thing, repeating over and over again, and will actually stall on me at a light, because
misfires and then misfires again and then misfires yet again until it just can't run anymore. It'll restart if I feather the gas, but if anybody knows, I would greatly appreciate it.
So if anybody has any idea why it does that every once and again, I'd love to know. In the meantime, I guess no harm done, and at least there's a new coil on there, so in the event that old one was ready to crap out, at least there's a new Chinese one in there that will last probably not as long as the old one before it craps out. In the meantime, I'll try to get that other nut off, and of course keep this as a spare if it still works, because it's actually spinning the threaded shaft there. The nut is like stuck on there. I sprayed it with WD-40, not that that's going to actually do anything, but figured it would do, for a small nut like that, it might work. Well, of course it didn't. Anyway, she's running. Here's your dead center stereo sound. And while you get choked out by the exhaust fumes, I will thank you very much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.